dartn.de ist hier und wir haben heute einen ganz besonderen Gast, den Vorstandsvorsitzenden der Professional Darts Corporation, der PDC, Mr. Matt Porter. Matt, first of all, thanks for your time, as we all know how busy you are.
No problem.
A few days ago, you have been at the US Darts Masters. Tell us a bit about this experience and how important this event has been for the Professional Darts Corporation.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really crucial moment in our development and our progression globally, I think. It's the first time that we've staged an event in America that serviced the American market. Previously, it's always been in Las Vegas, and it's been good for the darts community of America and good for tourists and holiday makers. But this was the first time that we've managed to stage an event which has appealed to the casual sports fan. We think the East Coast is the right place for darts, for developing darts in America. And New York, obviously, Madison Square Garden is a world-famous, world-class arena. So it was a great exercise for us, and one that we were very pleased with the outcome of.
The World Series in January, it all started in 2014 in Dubai. And well, where is the World Series right now? What would you say? There was also a break in the COVID times where it couldn't go to venues and countries outside Europe.
Yeah, there's still some challenges for us. Obviously, Australia and New Zealand have only just reopened post-COVID, and we're still unable to do anything in Asia for the same sort of reasons. So it's not quite where we want it to be yet. We'd like to have an event back in the Middle East. We'd like to do maybe something in Canada or a second event in America. Look at South Africa again. If you remember pre-World Series days, we did an event called the South African Masters. So there's lots of target territories for us. These things take time. And probably the biggest limitation we have, if you take COVID out of the equation, is the number of weeks in the year, because we've got a pretty packed calendar, and we can't just stage events, unfortunately, on top of each other. So we've got some challenges we're working through, but we're pleased with the post-COVID recovery, and we're looking forward to further growth in 2023 and beyond.
But it's not realistic that there are going to be more than 6 main World Series events in the future per year.
Yeah, maybe we have scope for up to 8. I think once we get beyond that, it will become a challenge. But 6 is the kind of base level that we want to work from.
Is there a reason why there are still some World Series events in countries where people would say the Professional Darts Corporation has already made their moves? For example, the Netherlands, and in the last years also Germany and Austria and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, the Dutch event is a partnership with our new broadcast partner in the Netherlands, and it's something that they wanted to do. Whether that lasts, we shall see. You're right in saying that, the main aim of the World Series is to go into developing markets, but sometimes there are, different reasons why we would stage an event if we have a commercial partner who wants to stage one, or we feel that there's more growth to be done. I mean, it would be arrogant of us to say that we've completed our growth in countries such as Germany and the Netherlands. We've still got more mountains to climb. So it's a question of what's right at the right time. As you say before, there have been certain limitations with travel for the last few years, but now we would certainly start to look further afield. You're right.
Are there still some territories in Europe which are interesting? I remember some Players' Championship events down in Benidorm in Spain at I think between 2009 and 2011 or 12. There is a player in José de Sousa from Portugal who makes the market maybe a bit more interesting.
Yeah, I think Spain's an interesting one, definitely. Portugal maybe is a few years behind Spain. But obviously there's a large Northern European expat community in the south of Spain, Brits, Germans, Dutch, that we would appeal to if we were to stage an event down there. I think Eastern Europe's still of interest to us. Our European tour events in Budapest and Prague over the last few years have been really successful. Maybe countries like Poland are also on our radar.
Yeah. Well, we've just spoken about the World Series. We are recording at the 9th of June, so the final of the Premier League is just 4 days away. There has been a new format, 8 players and every week 1 tournament. What were your impressions of this new format? How good did that work?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I think it's given it some context to every evening. It's meant that every match has got some importance on it. People will say there's, too many of the same sort of matches maybe, but ultimately it's the best players in the world playing each other. So if you don't want to watch that, maybe it's not the sport for you. But it was great to see Michael Smith winning Newcastle. Every player having won at least one night, I think, was a really important statement as well, to show the quality and the spread of quality. And also what's been really interesting is inside the venues, the fans have been staying to the end to see who wins. Now, that's not something that's been the case before. Maybe people will get to about 10 o'clock, people have had enough, they leave. But now there's some real context to it. And I think it's worked. Look, over the last 17 years, however long the Premier League's been in existence, the format has always evolved. It's never stayed the same for too long. So I'm not going to sit here and say this is going to be the format forever. It will have a lifespan, but only in the same way that every other format we've ever had in the Premier League has had a lifespan too.
Will there be a look at the points system? Maybe a win in the quarterfinal brought too much points, and when we also see that Joe Cullen has received 4 points from matches he didn't play because players didn't or couldn't turn up at those nights.
Yeah, I mean, that's not perfect, obviously. We have to ultimately, you have to put a rule in place. You have to have a system, and it has to be something that's clear and understandable for everybody from day one. And Joe was a recipient of a little bit of luck on that front. But, in the same vein, everybody knew what the situation was on day one, and none of the players who didn't play in their allotted fixtures was for any other reason than genuine injury. So I think it's something we'll look at, but I think it was an exception for what's happened to Joe this year. I'd be surprised to see that happen in the future.
There were 1 or 2 players complaining a bit about the new format, like Gervin Price saying it should stay at 1 match per night. Everything else is too much and all that stuff. What can you say to those things?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and Gerwin no different. I've had a separate conversation with him about it. He says he understands why the format is what it is, and respects why the decision was made. I think his theory was that he's obviously preparing in previous years, prepared for a match at a certain time, and now he doesn't know if he's going to be playing once, twice, or 3 times. The counter argument to that is, it's no different to a Players' Championship where you're playing multiple times on the day. Sometimes, European Tour, UK Open. There's other events where you'll play, more than once in a day potentially. And I think as well, players have to balance their own schedules as well. There's been quite a lot of exhibitions like recently that have involved players getting on aeroplanes. It's tiring, So tournaments are your bread and butter. That's where you earn your money. That's where you get your profile. It's where you get your sponsorship from. And I would encourage all players to make sure that their schedule is arranged sensibly. And if that means missing some tournaments, then fine. Probably not Premier League. It's not one that I don't see anybody really opting out of. But if players want to miss some Players' Championships or European Tours to ensure that they're not burnt out, then I totally respect that. If they do that, but they're still doing a lot of exhibitions, then maybe that's, a decision we wouldn't necessarily agree with. But ultimately, they're individuals. They manage their own careers. So it's up to them to do what's right for them.
Do you see relations between more matches in the Premier League and players from the Premier League have been not able to perform in the Premier League and outside the Premier League in a consistent manner?
Possibly. I mean, I'd have to look at that in a little bit more detail. I don't know. I think what you can say is that other players are good too. There's 8 players in the Premier League, but there's probably another 28 who are capable of winning, European Tour or whatever events. Luke Humphries has been fantastic. Rob Cross is getting back into some good form. So we're seeing, what we're seeing is the depth of talent. And those guys, if they haven't got that Thursday night distraction, Humphreys, Cross, etc., then it's fair play to them for being fresh and ready to compete at the weekends. As I say, for the Premier League players, if it's having an adverse effect on their game, then that's something really only they can impact. But it might be a case of them saying, well, I'll sit this weekend out to have a rest or whatever, and that's absolutely fine.
Yeah. There is another tournament just around the corner where many players from many different countries can show who they are and how good they are. It's the World Cup of Darts, and still the 32 nations and people and fans. Some of them say, well, someone is missing, maybe the French team or whoever. Are there still plans to increase the field and to change a bit on the format?
Yeah, you could say the French team was slightly unlucky this year, perhaps. We would like to be able to accommodate more countries in the World Cup. Whether that's possible or not will depend on a number of factors. The events are scheduled to suit a certain number of broadcast hours. So we couldn't just arbitrarily say we're going to go from 32 to 40, 48, 64, whatever countries, because that has to work with the broadcaster, the venue, the sponsors, etc. But there's different things we can look at and different ways in which we can try and incorporate other countries in the event. So it's something that's on our radar. One thing with the World Cup is it's been very, very, very difficult to stage it properly in the last few years because of COVID. I really feel for the Asian teams in particular. The Asian tour was really growing in strength and the players were improving a lot. And then they've had no real activity over the last couple of years. So that's been a big challenge for them. Same with the guys in New Zealand and America and Canada, but although they are now back to having a full circuit. But it's something that I want to see get back to a real stable base first. And then we can look at development after that.
How many people have come and knocked at your door at the last few years and telling you have to stage more doubles matches at the World Cup?
Probably not as many as you'd like to think.
Yeah, but how realistic is that?
Look, I don't know. I think the singles gives a different. The pressure on the players in the singles matches is astronomical. Because they're not just playing for themselves or their country, their mate who is stood around the back of the stage. The pressure on that. You see the reaction from the camera when it cuts to the other player. It's a huge amount of drama. I think the problem with doubles is one-sided doubles or long doubles matches can get really boring. And we've got to make sure that all our events stay entertaining and are fresh and are always relevant, and what I wouldn't want to see is a doubles match, best of 11, and one pair is 9-0 up. Best of 21, and one pair is 9-0 up. Because where's the advantage in that? If we just did doubles, we're taking a huge amount of time out of the schedule, so we'd have to do longer matches. Well, as I say, you don't want to watch, trust me, you do not want to watch a long one-sided doubles match. And the World Cup does lend itself to some one-sided matches. So I think the short matches and the singles really adds to the pressure and the drama. And it might just be that every now and again, some people want to see some more doubles, and I'm fine with that. But ultimately, it's not something we're doing, certainly not this year.
Yeah. Another tournament which brought much excitement because of another format than other tournaments, the group stages. This is the Grand Slam of Darts, and of course it will be back this year. The BDO isn't there anymore. The WDF has started to stage tournaments around the globe and had a world championship. Will there be players from the WDF system at this year's Grand Slam of Darts?
But we have an open dialogue with the WDF. We get on really well with guys like Richard Ashdown, Nick Rolls, Buddy Bartoletta. They're good guys, and they're working really hard to get a proper WDF circuit up and running to suit players who play, outside the professional game, so to speak. So, I think full credit to what they're doing. So we've got an open relationship with them. We also have an open dialogue with the UKDA. and a lot of other people who are moving into that space. And for me, that is still evolving. And it's going to be interesting to see how it evolves over the next year or so, once they've had a full post-COVID year of being able to travel and stage events without restrictions. So I'm not going to rule it out in the future. You know, at the moment, we're looking to service players from our own system. You know, we offer plenty of opportunities for players from all around the world and from different levels. And it's those players who we will focus on rewarding.
You just spoke about players from your system. There is also the secondary tours, the challenge tour, the development tour.
Yeah.
They are played again with this year with all players at the same venue. How deserved would it be, for example, from the development tour and the challenge tour, or just from the challenge tour, just to give them more tour cards out of that system, or to increase the prize money, which hasn't increased for one tournament since the start of those tours in 2014?
Yeah, the entry fees haven't increased either, and our cost of staging the events have increased. So there's two sides to every story. I think that prize money level is very competitive for a non-elite tournament. You know, I don't think you'd find too many players necessarily saying that they could go and play for more money elsewhere. But our aim is always to try and increase the rewards that are available to players, whether they're, you know, invites, opportunities, things like that. I take your point on the tour cards. I think that they, you know, you could say that 2 is a pretty slim amount, but in the same respect, because of the way the system works, there's not actually that many tour cards that end up at Q School. And for the volume of players who enter Q School, you wouldn't want to restrict their potential to win a tour card either. So I would certainly say that, yeah, you could definitely make a case for increasing the number of tour cards available on the Challenge Tour. But, you know, in the same vein, again, I wouldn't want to disincentivize anybody from entering Q School.
But you would give the players who do the Challenge Tour consistently, and also from other countries, and travel to the UK and all that stuff over a year's season, you would give them a better reward. Yeah,
of course you would. Yeah. I mean, look, you know, if you gave 30 tour cards out to the Challenge Tour, then yeah, you're going to be rewarding a lot of players. So at the moment, it's not a particularly high number, but also you want to make sure that it is players who are deserving of their place at the top of the tree. You know, they now get an exemption into the second phase of Q School. Obviously, top ups to Players Championship events as well. So there are entries, rewards that are filtering down to that level, and that's something that we'll continue to monitor and improve where we can.
Yeah. Is there also are there also thoughts to find a solution for the buys given away actually at the European Tour?
Yeah.
As we have seen 4 out of 7 tournaments, there was minimum 1 buy, because a player from the Premier League system most of the time pulled out, and well, it can't look that good.
No, it looks terrible. Yeah. It looks terrible. We really don't like that at all. As I say, I understand why players don't travel, but we need to change the rules and look at the qualification structure to ensure that we have the ability to make sure that they are 48 players, not 47 or 46. So that's definitely something. We have got something potentially, and we were looking at whether to bring it in halfway through this year, but we've opted not to, because we don't think it's fair to play half the year under one set of rules and half the year under another. But 100% that is something that will be changed for next year.
Yeah. Another thing which is always discussed on the Euro Tour, and unfortunately also in the Premier League, for example in Rotterdam, some fans and their unfair and not sportsmanlike behavior. What can the Professional Darts Corporation do against it, and what do they want to do against it?
I'm not sure there is much we can do. What's your suggestion?
My suggestion would be to start to do something in general on all the social media channels, for example, to just try to do something, and not that you just have the feeling, well, it happens in the venue, maybe 1 or 2 who do it get out of the venue, and if I wouldn't watch it, I wouldn't know that there is something.
Yeah, well, we have a respect video that is played inside the arenas, but ultimately people are masters of their own decisions, aren't they? And if somebody decides they want to boo a player, you can't actually really stop them doing that. It's not something we encourage, obviously. It's not something we particularly want to see. But I do also respect the rights of the spectator who attends an event for which they're paying to voice an opinion. And it's like when you go to a football match, you're not going to cheer the opposition to the team that you're playing. You know, so it's not ideal, but it's a fact of life that people go to sporting events with an opinion and with a favourite and with a second favourite. And I think it's a lot of the time it's up to the players to manage that. And sometimes if the behaviour gets out of hand, it's up to us to manage it. But I don't think it's something that you can stop.
Yeah, the booing is the one thing. I think you can get used to it, but when some people really try to whistle and stuff like
and
that.
I agree. If we find people whistling, then they are, you know, the security will make a decision whether to warn them or remove them. But again, you know, Kevin, sometimes there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000 people in the crowd. You can't just always find somebody who's whistling. You know, I do read these comments on social media, and people think it's easy. But it's really difficult, I can assure you. You know, if it's somebody who's sat near the front or somebody who we can see, then we will act upon it. But it's very, very difficult.
All right. Just at the end, a question. You just spoke about the tour card system and all that stuff. Is this the system the Professional Darts Corporation wants to keep? Are the 128 players, is this the number of players where the Professional Darts Corporation say we want to make sure that they can earn money? Or are there plans to say we want to give more players opportunities?
At the moment, we know that not all of the 128 tour card holders earn enough money from darts to make a living. So it wouldn't be right for us to increase the number of tour card holders, because all we would be doing would be increasing the number of people who weren't earning a living, because the same players would always win. So our first objective would be to get to the point where all 128 tour card holders can earn enough money to make a living purely from professional darts. I think we're probably at about half of that at the moment. If we can achieve that aim, then certainly we can look at it. But at the moment, we feel that 128, obviously it's a logical number from a draw perspective, but it's a good number in terms of the right amount of players who can compete at that level and stand a chance of winning. So we want to, as I say, put more money into the tour. There'll be further prize money increases on the way. And ultimately get to the point where everybody who's playing as a PDC tour card holder can earn a living from playing professional darts.
You talk about more money. Is it also possible to get more ranking events, for example, starting to pick 1 or 2 World Series events and get them the status of being a ranking tournament? Or is it just like it is at the moment, and then the prize money will be put on the tournaments which are already there, because we all know how full the calendar is?
I mean, the thing is, if you look at the World Series and go back to what I said 15, 20 minutes ago, we want the World Series to be in developing nations predominantly. So if we were to make the New Zealand Masters a ranking event, it would cost everybody so much money to get there that it would be impossible to deliver a return for them. You know, we'd have to have a prize fund of about 4 million quid probably. It'd just be unrealistic. So I think it's fair to say that the World Series serves a purpose for promoting darts in territories where it's a new audience sport. We know that where it's played, but it's then converting the mindset from being just a participation event to an audience event, and showcasing that with the best players in the world and the players who people are most interested in seeing. You know, don't forget, when a darts fan in Western Europe talks about the World Series, they're looking at it through a very different pair of eyes to a darts fan in the country that it's going to. You know, the players that they want to see in a lot of those developing countries are the elite players and the players who they're most interested in. So it will serve a purpose as a promotional tool for darts, but it's some way away from being a full ranking event, because a Tuesday afternoon match between two players ranked well outside the top 16 is not going to be of particular interest in a country where darts is quite a new product.
All right. That has been much around the world of darts, and I really enjoyed it. Thanks for your time. And
always a pleasure, Kevin. Hope you can make it to an event soon.
Yeah, it's planned, of course. Yeah.
Good.
I live in Dortmund, so
Yeah.
perhaps the European Championship gonna be
that would be good.
a good target. Yeah.
That would be good.
Thank you, and good luck for all of the things you were planning, and the future of professional darts.
Thanks very much. Take care of yourself.